What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Selling Ourselves. That's our title.
So far, yeah, we got to change it. We'll get you guys a better intro coming up.
We'll work on that one. We're Jake Engel and Braden Stutzman. So the purpose of this podcast is to, one, discuss and review some of the habits, traits, mindsets of successful athletes and entrepreneurs and how they can be deployed in your career. And then two, really just document our journey selfishly on our way to making our first million and or entrepreneurship endeavors. And so we wish the top 1% captured their experiences leading up to where they are today. So we hope to do the same. For today, we are talking about a discovery breakdown. So one, what is discovery? Two, the goal of discovery. And we want to give you guys some good actionable discovery questions you can take and implement immediately to hopefully get some good responses. And so Stutz, I'll hand it off to you and just get a brief rundown on what you think is discovery, and then I'll do a little deep dive on some goals and objectives that people can look for.
For sure. I think discovery is one of those sales terms that gets thrown around, and your leader's like, oh, you need to do a better job in discovery. And you're like, okay, what does that mean? I'm glad we're doing this podcast so you can kind of try and help define it and boil it down to its main concepts. I think for me, it's two people or two groups of people on a call, each with their own ability to add value to the other. And you're just trying to figure out like if what you have is able to solve the problem of the other person. And like discovery is the act of communicating, whether it's asking questions or communicating generally, to figure out what are their needs, what are their wants, what problems are they trying to solve, and getting a really good feel of what their current state looks like, and identifying whether your solution can help out with any of the problems or challenges that they're facing. So it's just like getting a really strong understanding as a salesperson of everything that's going on in your prospect's world to then get a feel of how your solution might be able to help is how I would define it. And that's a lot of words, but I'm curious to hear if you have a more condensed version, Jake.
No, I think that piggybacks pretty good into the goal of discovery. Really, and it's just to uncover a set of answers that lets you find a problem that you can solve. I think we've talked about this in the past of good sellers are problem solvers, but the best are problem finders. And so really good discovery is uncovering problems that your prospect might not even know are real problems. And so the goal is to A, quantify and understand where the current state is, understand their business problem, and then your goal really is to find what that gap is between current state and future state. And obviously it leads you into the demo because that gap is your demo, but that's a whole other conversation. So really I think if you're looking for a summary or a condensed version would be ask questions that widen the gap between current state and future state.
Yep.
Because the bigger the gap, the more value you can fill in.
Agreed. I think Mosey sums it up as what problem are we trying to solve? Why are we trying to solve it right now? What's the point? And so it's most people come to a sales call, and they know they have some level of pain, but they may not be able to fully articulate the problem that they're trying to solve or the pain involved with that problem or the need behind the need of that problem. So that's where you're trying to help them frame up, what problem you're trying to solve, and then why even try and solve it right now? What you're doing is getting you along, right? So why would you even try and solve it? And I guess that's kind of the other goal of discovery is to figure out why are you doing this right now? So 6 months down the line in the sales cycle, you don't come to me and you're like, hey, it's not really a priority. Let's define up front why you need to get this done right now.
Yeah, and I think that opens up a whole separate conversation of just overcoming objections and obstacles. But I think a good synopsis would just be, like you said, find out what their problem is, why they're wanting to solve it, why they're wanting to solve it now. And then your goal is to help them.
Yep. So it's kind of discovery. I think personally the best way to get there is asking a lot of really good questions, right? Would you say so?
Yeah, you want to ask a lot of questions. I don't think you want to do it so much to the point where it feels interrogative. I think you have to sprinkle in a little bit of storytelling, whether that's customer stories. Um, you could even just be like a good frame is saying like the reason I ask is because, just to give some kind of reference to what you're saying, just so it's not peppering your prospect with questions. And so, like, yes, asking really good questions, but then it's also being really good about peeling back their surface level questions to understand the need behind the need in your discovery. And so that's another skill to have of like, Chris Orlock talks about this of using phrases like, can you help me understand? Can you walk me through? Can you tell me more about? And so you're really starting to dive deeper into these surface level questions to more eventually, hopefully, getting to a business problem that their executive would write on a whiteboard and say, this is what we're trying to solve. That's really good discovery. And that's hopefully what people are trying to
Agreed. And we're going to keep this kind of a shorter episode, a more tactical episode. So, Jake, what are some questions our listeners can use on their next call to open up a little more discovery and kind of achieve that goal, like you're saying, of quantifying pain a little bit more, helping the prospect frame the problem a little bit better and understand exactly what they're trying to solve, why they need to solve it now.
Sure. Yeah, something that we see reps do a little bit that may hinder the discovery process is they beat around the bush and they wait to start talking about the prospect's challenges, whereas we want to go directly for it because that's what they care about. And so right out of the gate, one of the first questions, or if not the first question, would just be, tell me about your biggest challenges when it comes to X. So either they're going to tell you a long laundry list of things they already had mapped out that they're looking to solve, or they'll say that they don't have really a ton of questions or they don't have a ton of things going on right now and that they're just window shopping. And you can overcome that objection or obstacle right there and go from there. But right out of the gate, you want to start to understand the business problem and start wondering and uncovering why they're even there on the call. It typically has to do with some related challenge.
Yep, agreed. And then once they share, like, here's what we're struggling with. I think a good follow-up question to that is, what's driving that to be a priority right now, or what's driving you to want to fix that right now? And I think that's important because it helps them understand like a little bit of urgency of like how big the problem is and why they need to solve it right now. It also helps you as the salesperson figure out, is this a deal worth investing a lot of time in? Because if they don't have an answer for you, or it's just like, we're checking out solutions, like you can kind of chalk that one up as hey, they don't see the value in it. So it's not worth me spending months of my time trying to figure this out. So that's a good qualification question.
Right. And I think it gives you a decent understanding of where to tailor the conversation. Or if you're speaking to a list of department level challenges, or are you speaking to an exec level initiative that's been handed down to the VP, to the director, to his team to go and find a solution. And so now you can start finding out where this is coming from and like you said, the urgency. That's a great way to frame it. Piggybacking off that would also just be to understand the urgency almost behind the urgency in a sense of just really understanding what's driving you to solve priority right now rather than later. You maybe get an idea of if they're working towards solving this in the next fiscal year, if this is something that they got to get done before end of year, kind of gets you an idea of where they're at in the buying process and what level of, like you said, urgency that they are in right now for getting this project done. Because right then and there, with those three questions, you probably have a list of problems going on in the business. You've uncovered the current state about what's driving this to be a priority, whether it's a initiative or it's just a department level challenge. And now you have a somewhat decent time frame of why they're wanting to do this now and or if they're looking at doing this later. So you have a decent ballpark metric of the reasoning behind them looking at it so far.
Agreed. And then one thing I think most salespeople don't do a great job of is getting like past the initial like top level pain and diving a little bit deeper into the need behind the need, or peeling the onion of pain back a little bit. So a good question to kind of get there, I think, is, hey, can't imagine this is the only thing on your plate right now. How is this getting in the way of other projects? And that'll kind of help lead you into the conversation of like, hey, this is an issue, but it's an even bigger issue because it's holding you back from achieving your other goals that you have over here. Or your team is spending so much time solving this problem, or just duct taping solutions over here that you're not able to achieve your goals over here. And that's one of those like problem finding type of questions of they may not have even realized that like, oh, you know what? Like I have 17 other things I'd love to get done, but I don't have the capacity to do those right now.
Right. Another one that is similar to that is finding out where or what they're being measured by. So you could almost say like, hey, like we're measured by OKRs. Just out of curiosity, is there anything that you're being measured up against, whether it's some type of metrics or internal alignment that you're trying to achieve with this project? And so now you can see if it's like, hey, our OKR for this company or this year is reduce X by 25%. It's like, okay, now you start to uncover where is this being driven by, and now you're knowing that they're being measured by this. And so if you were to have some kind of internal narrative that resonates with the entire team, all the way up to their CTO, for example, like they know that this overarching OKR is known throughout the whole company. And so that's a good form of discovery to know like what they're being put.
Agreed. And then kind of round out our list of questions. I think another good one is, again, a lot of people tend to focus on, challenges, problems, pain. Sometimes once you've kind of hit on that enough, it might make sense to transition into almost what the future state could look like. And so a good question to kind of paint that picture is like, hey, assuming you were able to solve this problem by the end of the quarter or by the end of this month, what would that look like for your teams? Or what wins could that generate for your teams? Something to that respect. I think it's important to have a couple of those questions on hand as well to really paint a compelling future state.
Yeah, that's
but Jake, it's been a pleasure. I know we gotta run, but hopefully this was a quick and more tactical episode for people out there. Discovery, again, is one of those terms that gets thrown around, and there's not a concrete definition on it a lot of the times. And so hopefully understanding what the point of it is, and then having a couple of tactical questions here to use in your next call can help you win more deals. So Jake, it's been a pleasure, and see you guys next time.